What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Friday, December 8th edition of the NBA Lineup Generator video. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And we have a 13-game NBA slate tonight. We get a night off between the semifinals and finals of the in-season tournament. So most teams in the NBA are playing, which gives us a large DFS slate that we can walk through using the Lineup Generator. In this video, I'll show you how the Lineup Generator works, how you can use it to create lineups to improve your DFS performance, and you can sign up using the link below. More on that later, but first make sure that you like this video, whether you're watching it on YouTube or on Twitter. Give it a thumbs up. If you are watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you get an alert when our shows go live. Now, starting on the DraftKings side, the first option you're going to have in the Lineup Generator is the type of lineups that you want. This is the type of lineups that you will be presented with on the next screen. You can choose all lineups: chalky, balanced, contrarian. For this video, I'm going to go with contrarian, but if you were playing smaller field stuff, I would recommend chalky or balanced. Next, you have the ability to lock a player into your lineups. I don't recommend doing this if you are playing a lot of lineups. If you're getting 20, for example, I would rather give the tool the ability to do full flexibility to do what it does. But if maybe you're playing one lineup or three lineups and you know that there's somebody that you're going to want to play, you can save yourself some time and lock them in. But I'm going to skip that for this video. And then we get to the next screen, which is where we start being presented with lineups. And what these lineups are is, on the back end, we're utilizing our player projections, ownership projections, and simulation models. We are running through the slate thousands and tens of thousands of times, and we're presenting you at the end with lineups that we project to be profitable in the long run. And then you have the ability to sort through those lineups, keep the ones that you like, discard the ones that you don't. You have some customization options as well if there's just a player or two that you don't like in a given lineup. You have all of that at your disposal, but we're giving you the foundation for quality DFS lineups. And what you can see here is that you see the total salary, fantasy projection, and ownership projection. Then down here at the bottom, we have sliders that show you how it compares to the alternatives in both projection and ownership, which is very useful. And then you have the individual player data, the salary projection and ownership projection for each player. And then one of the customization options I was referring to are these arrows over here on the right. Let's say you're looking at this lineup and you really like it, except you don't like Kevin Huerter. Just click the arrows. It'll show you all of the shooting guard options. You can scroll down to the $5,700 price range. And if you see one that you like more than Huerter, you can swap them in. You have the player projection and ownership projection for them as well. So, for example, if you wanted Tim Hardaway instead of Kevin Huerter in this lineup, you would just click the arrows here and that swap will be made. Obviously, you can do that with multiple players as well. You could, for example, drop Devin Booker to somebody that costs $6,000 and then have $4,100 to upgrade, say, Chris Dunn. So you have that flexibility here. If you like the lineup, you save it. If you don't, you discard it. For this video, I'm going to just save the first 20 that we get. And then we can look at our player exposures on the next screen. One reminder is that I am recording this early in the day, so I don't recommend actually playing any of these lineups. I don't recommend making sure that your exposures mimic what is shown in this video. I do recommend signing up and using this for yourself so that you can get up-to-date projections closer to lock once we have more injury news. Perfect example is Trae Young was just ruled out as I was recording this. So clearly the impact on Atlanta is not going to be featured in this video, but it is something that you're going to want to take into account for your lineups. Now, we can see here we have Caleb Martin at the top, 50%, Cole Anthony at 50%. There is no Jalen Suggs today for the Magic, so that's making Anthony look better. We're getting to a lot of Anthony Simons, Yusuf Nurkic, Devin Booker. Jared Butler is showing up 25% of the time. That's kind of a weird one. Same with Kenrich Williams at 3,200. Then we're getting back to actual players with Okongwu, James Harden, Patrick Williams, Scotty Barnes, and Jakob Poeltl. This is a perfect example, though, of the other way that you can customize your lineups easily. Caleb Martin, for anybody that watched the strategy show this morning, sort of just has a weird projection right now. He's going to look better. The projection, rather, will be better by the time we get to lock. But in our early run on projections, we're just a little bit high on Caleb Martin, but we don't have him projected for a lot of ownership. So as a result, he's showing up in a ton of lineups. I would not want anywhere close to 50% Caleb Martin. So let's say that, it is close to lock, and for whatever reason, you just don't like a player that you happen to get a lot of when you selected your lineups. All you have to do is you click the name over here on the right. It's going to highlight the lineups that have that player, in this case, Caleb Martin, over here on the left. And then you can scroll through and replace him in the ones that you don't like, or completely get rid of those lineups. So you can use the arrows and just replace him, or just click discard. And I'm going to do that with a few lineups here, get rid of 3 of them. And then all you have to do, so now you're down to 17 lineups instead of 20. You just click get more lineups. It'll take you back to the previous page. And we're just going to replace those 3 lineups, or 4 lineups rather, I apparently miscounted, with lineups that do not have Caleb Martin. And that will help, or that will lower our exposure to Martin. Of course, I happen to pick the guy that right now is showing up everywhere. So this is taking longer than I wanted it to. But you get the idea. You can adjust your exposures very easily that way. So now we're back to 20 lineups and Caleb Martin's down to 30% instead of 50. Again, I wouldn't even want 30%, but you get the point here. Same thing goes with Jared Butler, for example. I don't really have a reason why I would want 20% of him, but it's early in the day. And that's kind of what's showing up. But if this were at lock, I would, that's how you would adjust those. And then you're also going to want to pay attention to make sure you don't have any unintended consequences. For example, I'm not going to show it on the video, but there's a good chance if I were to select Kenrich Williams and start deleting Kenrich Williams lineups, that my 20% Jared Butler is going to increase because I'm going to be using him as a $3,200 play instead. So you may have to do it a few different times if there's several players that you're not comfortable with your exposures. But the nice thing is every lineup you're being presented with is projected to be a profitable lineup. So you don't have to worry about, it's something that we used to have to worry about in the past where you don't necessarily want to manually adjust player exposures that much because you're counteracting the data. That's not really the case here anymore. There's tons and tons and tons of lineups that project to be profitable. So if there's a player that you just don't want that much of, you can just get rid of him and play a different lineup that projects to be profitable. So you do have that flexibility there. You sort of have guardrails in place where the lineups that you're getting are quality lineups with or without the guy that you don't like. So that's how you can handle your exposures. Now looking at the individual lineups to see if any stand out. 13 game slate, so aggregate ownership is going to be pretty low. Looks like most of these lineups project between 250, 260 fantasy points, 75 to 90 or 100% ownership. Nothing really stands out there, but we can look at this first lineup that we selected. We have Cole Anthony and Devin Booker. Again, Anthony's going to look better now with no Jalen Suggs. Devin Booker looks like the best pay-up option on the slate, at least pre-Trae Young news. Now, DeJounte Murray is going to look like a really good guard play, whereas he didn't when I ran all of this. But Booker is playing without Durant. He is playing without Booker, or without Beal, rather. That's a massive bump for him. Asar Thompson, we're going to need to pay attention to Detroit's starting lineup tonight, but they are without Jalen Duren. There's a good chance Thompson moves back into the starting lineup for his rebounding abilities and defense. If he does, he's only 5,800 and he's going to look pretty good. Kenrich Williams likely playing in the mid-teens off the bench for OKC. Looks like an okay value right now. It's probably going to go away by lock as other stuff opens up. We're getting to Goga at 7%. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander looks good if you can find the salary. Vince Williams at 4,300. Again, just a random value piece that probably goes away by lock. And then Duop Reith coming off of a game where he started and played 22 minutes in place of DeAndre Ayton. Still looks like a pretty decent value tonight at 4K. So that's a look at DraftKings. And now we're going to switch over and do the same thing for FanDuel. But first, if you are looking to utilize this tool, check out or use the link to sign up in the description below if you're watching on Twitter, or on YouTube rather. If you're watching on Twitter, I will tweet a link below where you are watching this video, and you can sign up there. It's $14.95 per week, and we created this tool with our single entry, 3 max, 20 max, lower stakes players in mind, because one of the most difficult things when you're trying to progress in DFS and get better is finding a way to utilize the data and information that is available without hamstringing yourself and putting yourself in a position where it's going to be very difficult for you to profit, no matter how good you are, no matter how good the tools you're paying for are, because you're simply paying too much money relative to the amount of money that you're playing on a nightly basis in DFS. So we created this tool where you don't have the full suite of options that you do if you sign up for a Sims package, but you're paying a discounted price and you're still getting the end result of that simulation process. You're still getting access to our data and being presented with lineups utilizing that data that we project to be profitable. It is the most cost-effective way to leverage the data that is out on our site and our models and improve your DFS performance. I highly recommend checking it out. It will make you better. Now, moving over to the FanDuel side, we are once again going to choose contrarian lineups and not lock anybody in. I'm going to save the first 20 that we get. And we should get some different exposures on FanDuel compared to DraftKings, since, of course, you have 9 players instead of 8. You have different positional requirements and different pricing, so things will look a bit different over here, or at least you would expect them to. Again, Caleb Martin just overprojected right now. It's should come down by lock. I certainly don't want 65% of him. I already showed you how to get rid of that. Cole Anthony is going to look good here, 7,100. Probably will get less of him closer to lock because now we do have the Atlanta guys opening up without Trae Young. Anthony Simons returned to the starting lineup, played 37 minutes last game, looks fantastic here at 6,600. Gary Harris should step into some more minutes without Suggs as well. He's only 4,200. We have Yusuf Nurkic looking very good with no Kevin Durant or Bradley Beal tonight. Tim Hardaway's only 4,800, so that looks good. Devin Vassell finally rejoined the Spurs starting lineup. He's only 6,500. We have a small forward eligible Cam Thomas at 6,500, which looks pretty good. Then we're getting some Franz Wagner, Jabari Walker, Kyle Kuzma, DeMar DeRozan. So, again, FanDuel, generally you're going to like your players a little bit better. Pricing has been softer typically this season than on DraftKings. So certainly names here that aren't as questionable as some of the ones we were getting on DraftKings. If you look at the lineups, most of them coming in around 125% to 85% ownership. Nothing, too crazy there. You do have an extra player compared to DraftKings, so that's why the ownership numbers are higher. Projections obviously also higher, mostly 295 to 300 fantasy points. We can look at this one here. It's the highest projected of the ones that I selected, and we have a 10% owned Dinwiddie, 12% owned Cole Anthony, 26% owned Anthony Simons, 7.5% owned Devin Vassell at shooting guard, Franz Wagner and Tim Hardaway at small forward. Hardaway serving as a contrarian piece here at 7% owned. Tobias Harris and Caleb Martin. Again, don't love Caleb Martin. Probably won't play that much of him, but he's showing up right now. Harris, Martin, and then Yusuf Nurkic rounding it out. Pretty solid lineup overall. And again, Caleb Martin, if you don't want to play him here, you have the ability to go to this screen, use the arrows. You can quickly turn him into, say, Denny Avdia or anybody else in this range, or you can just discard the lineup and find another one. That's all I have for you today. Don't forget to pay attention to news that comes out through the day. Watch the Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock shows on our YouTube channel with more up-to-date information. And most importantly, sign up, use this tool for yourself, get access to the most up-to-date projections, ownership, simulation models, all of that closer to lock so that you can improve your own DFS performance. Other than that, that's all I have for you. Good luck on your lineups tonight and enjoy your weekend.